Welcome to the April 9, 2021 meeting of the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via web conference. Meeting includes a public dial-in options that's available on the Charter Commission's website. I'd like to introduce Ashley Thomas, the Commission's General Counsel, who will reference the circumstances behind the virtual meeting and the relevant TCA section. Ashley.
Thank you, Chairman. Ashley Thomas. Given the current COVID-19 pandemic and concerns for public safety and welfare, as well as the pandemic's impact on the Commission's budget, this Commission meeting is being conducted by electronic means as provided by TCA 8-44-108 and Governor Lee's Executive Order 78. Additionally, Executive Order 78 requires those speaking to identify themselves in a manner capable of permitting the public to ascertain the identity of the person speaking. This meeting is being recorded and will be available after its conclusion via link on the Commission's website, and a call-in number was provided on the Commission's website for the public to participate.
This is Tom Griscom. So I already violated the first thing you said. I didn't identify myself as open the meeting, so now I have. Apologize. So as a reminder, all votes of the Commission are conducted via taking a roll call. And as I just did, please identify yourself prior to speaking, making a motion, or voting. So with that, since I'm keeping the chair for a second here, Chase, would you please take a roll call of the commissioners?
Chase Engle, Commissioner Hanson, Commissioner Levine, Commissioner Patterson.
Aye.
Is present. Commissioner Richards.
Aye, present.
Is present. Commissioner Sisnett.
I am present.
Is present. Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Tucker.
Here.
Is present. Chairman Griscom.
Here.
Is present. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. This is Tom Griscom. Today's agenda includes reports from our 3 standing committees. We'll be voting on policies on both first and final reading from the Rules, Policy, and Governance Committee. We'll also be discussing 4 separate charter school agreements with our General Counsel, Ashley Thomas. Chase will provide the commissioners with a legislative update. We will conclude our meeting with updates from our Executive Director, Tess Stovall. Does anybody have any comments regarding the agenda before we vote to approve? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
This is Terrence Patterson, so moved.
This is Commissioner Sisnett. I second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions? With that, Chase, would you call the roll?
Chase Engle, Commissioner Hanson, Commissioner Levine, Commissioner Patterson.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Richards.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Sisnett.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Tucker.
Aye.
Votes aye. Chairman Griscom.
Aye.
Votes aye. The agenda is approved.
Thank you. It's Tom Griscom again. The minutes of the meeting held on February 5, 2021 have been provided to commissioners. Are there any edits to these minutes before we proceed? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from February 5, 2021?
This is Commissioner Richards, so moved.
Thank
This is
you,
Commissioner Sisnett. Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Chase, call the roll, please.
Chase Engle, Commissioner Hanson.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levine. Commissioner Patterson.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Richards.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Sisnett.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Tucker.
Aye.
Votes aye. Chairman Griscom.
Aye.
Votes aye. The minutes from February 5th are approved.
Hey, this is Alan Levine. I voted aye. I was muted. I apologize.
Sorry about that, sir.
So in accordance with, this is Tom Griscom, in accordance with Commission Policy 1.200, we've reserved time for up to 30 minutes of public comment. Chase, Are there any people to introduce to us who registered for public comment?
No, sir, we did not receive any public comment requests.
Thank you. It's Tom Griscom again. Commissioners, we will now have Ashley Thomas present 4 charter agreements for our consideration. These charter agreements for schools transferring from the State Board of Education, and the staff and the charter school operators have been in negotiations since receiving earlier this year to prepare for these agreements. Ashley, are you ready to present this item?
This is Ashley Thomas. I am.
Let me ask you to go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Today, I'm presenting a high-level overview of 4 charter agreements to the Commission for approval. Pursuant to TCA 49-13-142, the Commission is charged with transferring charter agreements of schools previously under the State Board's jurisdiction to that of the Commission's authority. Tess and I initiated conversation with members of these 4 schools that you have before you today to establish new charter agreements for the remainder of their terms. Entry of each of these agreements is required as the Commission assumes its role as an LEA. Over the past several months, we've negotiated the terms of the charter agreements as well as waivers requested by the charter schools. For the Commission's review are the charter agreements for Bluff City High School, KIPP Antioch College Prep Elementary School, KIPP Antioch College Prep Middle School, and Rocket Ship Nashville. I will note for the Commission that the waivers for KIPP Antioch Middle and KIPP Antioch Elementary have not been loaded as they requested additional review time. And as the charter schools waiver list is an ongoing amenable document, I felt it was necessary to present the charter agreements and other exhibits, and we will present the waivers at a later time. All the exhibits accompanying the charter agreements have been provided to the Commission members, and all documentation is available on the Commission's website. The original agreements that were with the State Board are included as exhibits for comparison. And the changes in these agreements include references from the State Board to the Commission as a party to the agreement. The charter schools were also permitted to suggest amendments to the charter agreement prior to the transfer. Tess and I did complete a due diligence review of any amendments to the charter agreements prior to the transfer. And we did that to ensure that an approval would be supported by school and any organizational records that were necessary. I will note for KIPP Antioch College Prep Elementary and KIPP Middle School, there was a request for max enrollment increases. As this is a material term, this change was submitted via an amendment application, and the Commission staff as well as the School Accountability and Performance Committee did review and approve that at yesterday's committee meeting. Unless there are other questions, my recommendation for each of these agreements is approval pursuant to TCA 49-13-142.
This is Tom Griscom. Thank you, Ashley. Are there any questions at this point? Commissioner Tucker.
This is Wendy Tucker. I have some tiny itty bitty things that I just want to look at, and it's in the special ed section, and they're all identical, I think. So I looked at all of them. In 2.3, and let me preface this by saying part of my day job is to make sure that special ed is clear in charter schools, and I think you guys, or the State Board or Tess, whoever did this originally, did a great job on this. So these are just tiny little things I wanted to just raise and see, and I think they're easy tweaks if we wanted to tweak them. So in 2.3, it specifies rightfully that the schools have to follow all the special ed laws, but the way it's written, I want to make sure. Maybe it's 2.3.1. Oh, it's 2.3.1. I'm sorry. It says the charter school assumes responsibility for, and then it lists services, development IEPs, 504 plans, child find, eval and re-eval, and all other obligations under these laws for students identified as eligible. This is a really tiny thing, but child find isn't for students that are already identified as eligible. It's to identify kids who are eligible. So I don't know how you could tweak that language, and I don't even know if you need to, but I just wanted to point that out because it looks like child find only applies for kids you've already identified if you read it literally. And then the only other two word choice things I would point out is later in that section, it says all special education students and disabled students. And I think the better language on that would be students with disabilities. And then the final thing I would point out, and I don't know if this language came from Metro schools. Some schools call special ed exceptional education. Some call it special education. And I guess at the bottom of page 5, top of page 6, you refer, the last sentence in that paragraph, you refer to it as exceptional education services. So I don't know if that just needs to be changed to special education to be consistent with everything else. It's the only place I see exceptional education written in. And those are my itty bitty tiny things that I wanted to point out.
This is Tom Griscom. Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Ashley Thomas, may I ask you for your response to the points raised by Commissioner Tucker?
Absolutely. This is Ashley Thomas. Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Tucker, I have noted what you pointed out in section 2.3.1. I don't think any of your suggested edits change the meaning of that section. I don't think it would change what the charter agreement provides and protects. What I can do is make that change if the commission agrees. I can make that change and present that to our charter schools. Like I said, I don't think it changes anything in the agreement. It's just for continuity and clarity's sake of that particular section. I'm fine with that.
This is Tom Griscom. Commissioner Tucker.
This is Wendy Tucker. Yes, that I agree with you. It doesn't change anything substantively at all, and I think it literally is just tiny little tweaks that I think are just make the language clearer. That's it.
This is Commissioner Griscom. So Ashley, to incorporate this, we should amend what is before the commission this morning. So we capture Commissioner Tucker's word changes based on your comments that as you looked at them, as Wendy went through them. So am I correct that we would want to have an amendment with all 4 of the agreements that we're going to act on?
This is Ashley Thomas. That's correct, Chairman. What the commission can do is approve those agreements with that amendment. I would take those back to the charter schools. If there's a huge substantive issue that the charter schools raise with that, I will of course bring that back to the commission. But like I said, I don't think it substantively changes anything in the agreement. But the commission can go ahead and approve it with those amendments as raised by Commissioner Tucker.
This is Commissioner Griscom. Thank you. Are there other questions on these agreements? Seeing none, and thank you. Do we have a motion to approve Bluff City High School charter agreement with the amendment as stated?
This is Wendy Tucker. I would move that we approve the Bluff City charter agreement with those minor amendments that were conveyed by me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do I have a second?
This is Levine.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Levine. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Chase, would you call the roll, please?
Chase Hinkle, Commissioner Hanson.
Votes aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levine.
Yes.
Votes aye. Commissioner Patterson.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Richards.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Sisnett.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Tucker.
Aye.
Votes aye. Chairman Griscom.
Aye.
Votes aye. The agreement is approved as amended.
Thank you. Now we're ready to vote on the charter agreement with KIPP Antioch College Prep Elementary. Do I have a motion to approve with the same amendment from Commissioner Tucker?
This is Commissioner Richards. So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
This is Commissioner Sisnett. I second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? Chase, seeing none, would you call the roll, please?
Chase Hinkle. Commissioner Hanson.
Votes aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levine.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Patterson.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Richards.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Sisnett.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
Votes aye. Chairman Griscom?
Aye.
Votes aye. The agreement is approved as amended.
Thank you. This is Tom Griscom. Our next agreement is the charter for KIPP Antioch College Prep Middle School. Do we have a motion including the amendment to approve this, this charter agreement?
This is Wendy Tucker. So moved.
Thank you.
Eddie
Mr.
Smith, I'll
Smith.
second.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith, and welcome. It's good to see you. Any other discussion? Chase, call the roll, please.
Chase Engel? Commissioner Hanson?
Votes aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levine?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Patterson?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Richards?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Cisnet?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Griscom?
Aye.
Votes aye. The agreement is approved as amended.
Thank you. Now, our last agreement, this is Tom Griscom, is voting on the charter agreement with Rocket Ship Nashville number 3. Do I have a motion to approve with the amended language?
Eddie Smith, I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Have a second.
Wendy Tucker, a second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Chase, would you call the roll, please?
Chase Engel? Commissioner Hanson?
Votes aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levine?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Patterson?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Richards?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Cisnet?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
Votes aye. Chairman Griscom?
Aye.
Votes aye. The agreement is approved as amended.
Thank you. This is Tom Griscom. We're now going to move to Rules, Policy, and Governments Committee report. Commissioner Patterson, thank you for your continued service leading this committee. And before I recognize you, I'd like to share for the record, because we are going to be talking about the Executive Director's performance review, annual performance review, that Tess and I have just completed the first, I guess, quarterly review. Got a note back this morning that apparently the state accepted what we did. So I just wanted to alert commissioners that we have had that conversation. We have reviewed it. It has been submitted to the state. And so, Commissioner Patterson, I hope that we are following the lead that your committee is setting out. And let me call on you now for your committee report, please.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Terrence Patterson. And the first item on the committee's report is to share progress regarding the annual evaluation, which you just made reference to, for our executive director. And the committee has identified Commissioner Alan Levine to work with our executive director, Tess Stovall, to build out a process that will be used for her annual review, which will include an opportunity for all commissioners to provide written feedback. And so I would like to recognize Commissioner Levine and Tess Stovall to provide an overview of the process. And before doing so, I'll just note that we did have a very good conversation yesterday, and we are in alignment with the remarks that you made prior, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Levine and Tess.
Tess, let's do it the way we did it yesterday.
Okay, great. This is Tess Stovall. We had a good conversation yesterday about how Commissioner Levine and I are recommending that we proceed regarding the annual evaluation. As Chairman Griscom mentioned, the committee recommends that the commission chair conduct the 2 interim reviews that are required by the state, and that the committee's work really focus on that annual review process. I think what's important to note is that you all as commissioners will both see copies of those interim reviews that are conducted by the commission chair, as well as a part of the annual review process. We'll have an opportunity to provide written feedback that will be aggregated by the commission chair and will be consolidated as a part of my annual review. The other thing that I wanted to note is that Commissioner Levine and I had a great conversation about moving forward in our next review cycle and our next setting of goals to try to elevate my goals and to be more strategic and kind of to focus the commission and the committee on kind of those higher level goals as opposed to kind of the implementation work. I think that there's a recognition that the state system is built maybe not for the full work of 9 commissioners weighing in on all interim reviews. So we definitely wanted to strike the right balance between kind of making sure that I'm setting my goals that align with the future work of the commission while also meeting the state's requirements. And I will be happy to turn it to Commissioner Levine for any additional comments.
I think that was a great summary. I think my observation, I shared this with the committee yesterday, Mr. Chairman, I've never seen an organization so aggressively evaluate its leader as often as we're required to do it with these interim evaluations plus the annual evaluation, and then the granularity in which we go to in each of these evaluations. Honestly, we're going to spend all our time evaluating tests, and so and frankly, what I think Tess accurately described is, I think our interest is obviously we want to comply with the state's requirements. But we also want to keep the commission at a high level as we're evaluating tests. Our goal is for the commission to establish its vision, its plan, and to evaluate tests in accordance to those broader plans, as opposed to getting down in the weeds on all the tactics. The tactics really are for her to work through with her staff, and otherwise we're in the business of micromanaging tests, which I don't think any of us really want to do. So I think we're on a good pathway here where you do the interim evaluations, and the annual evaluation is really each commissioner. When we established Tess's objectives and goals, each commissioner can evaluate individually their perception of how Tess is performing against those goals, those broader goals, and then you, Mr. Chair, would then meet with Tess after consolidating all that input and providing her evaluation. So seems like a better approach, and I'll be the first one to advocate every chance possible to change this model, because it's overkill in my view.
It's Tom Griscom. Thank you, Commissioner Levine and Tess Stovall. Any other comments on this? Let me make 2 other points. I agree with the granular level we went through here, but it may be good as we're starting up, because on that review that Tess and I just did day before yesterday, it really does put out there for people to see the work that's gone on as we are moving into this role, to actually take the actions that are coming. So Commissioner Levine, I agree with what you said. I would hope, yes, that we can look broader going forward, but there was part of me, if you look at this review, people have a pretty good sense of all the work that's gone on in building out this commission and getting ready to do its work. So I just wanted to share that. And also one other thing for the record, and that is we will have board evaluation too. And I think Commissioner Patterson, it's clearly something to be noted as that gets put together, because not every organization I've been involved with in the past has evaluated its board. And I think that that is also an important part of what we do, where we have this examination of ourselves and the work we're doing. So I just wanted to add those comments for the record. So thank you all. Commissioner Patterson, let me now come back to you because there are some policies requiring commission action on first read. And let me call on you again to bring that before the commission, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Terrence Patterson. So I would like to ask our General Counsel, Ashley, to walk the commission through the policies that are up for first reading consideration today. This is a part of our committee's charge to conduct an annual review of all of the policies to ensure that we are continuing to align with best practices and current statutes. So I'll turn it over to you, Ashley.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is Ashley Thomas. During yesterday's meeting, the Rules, Policy, and Governance Committee did begin their annual audit of commission policies surrounding commission operations. During that audit, the committee considered policies surrounding commission operations, appeals policies, as well as the policies surrounding the commission as an authorizer. The policies were renumbered for efficiency purposes, and the committee did discuss some proposed changes, including additional disclosures in our conflict of interest forms. There was a new personnel policy proposed, and there was clarifying language in the appeals policies, as well as grammatical edits throughout the policies. Just for the commission's information, I will note there is a policy up on first reading, 1.400 being the public records policy. I wanted to give the commission the information that the public records request rules were filed with the Secretary of State on April 5th, and they are scheduled to be effective on July 4th. So there may be some overlap or duplicative information in the policy and rule. And so that particular policy may look a little different when it comes up for final reading. Those were all of the edits that we had on first reading. With that, I would recommend approval of these commission policies on first reading.
This is Commissioner Griscom. Commissioner Patterson, are there any other comments you want to make before we go to a vote?
This is Commissioner Patterson. No, there are no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me then entertain a motion for approval of commission policies 1000, 2000, 3000. So do I have a motion to approve?
This is Commissioner Patterson. So moved.
Do I have a second?
Levine, second.
And Commissioner, is there any further discussion before we vote? Seeing none, Chase, let me ask you to call the roll, please.
Chase Engel, Commissioner Hanson,
Votes aye.
votes aye. Commissioner Levine,
Aye.
votes aye. Commissioner Patterson,
Aye.
votes aye. Commissioner Richards,
Aye.
votes aye. Commissioner Tisnet,
Aye.
votes aye. Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
votes aye. Commissioner Tucker,
Aye.
votes aye. Chairman Griscom,
Aye.
votes aye. Mr. Chairman, the policies are approved on first reading.
Thank you. This is Tom Griscom. Terrence, I'm going to go back to you again, if I may, and ask you to introduce the final items on the Rules, Policy, and Governance Committee report, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Terrence Patterson. At our committee meeting yesterday, the Committee for Rules, Policy, and Governance, the committee also considered the adoption of final LEA policies that cover fiscal management, support services, instructional support, personnel, and students in our commission schools. So I'm going to again turn over to our general counsel to provide an overview of the pertinent changes to these commission LEA policies that are up for final reading for the commission. Ashley.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is Ashley Thomas. As you stated in yesterday's meeting, we completed the final review of commission LEA policies. For the past couple of meetings, we've been in extensive conversation about the number of policies that the commission needs to adopt as an LEA. The policies up for final reading are in the 2000 series, the 3000 series, 4000, 5000, and 6000 series. We finalized the edits from the first reading in February. Those changes were adopted and grammatical edits were completed. There were some changes to highlight language regarding special education students. And we changed the title of the policy 5107 to emphasize that this was protecting student privacy after an employee had separated from a charter school. As I stated, the other edits were small and grammatical in nature. Unless there were other questions or other edits, upon a final approval vote, the committee will have completed their annual review of the LEA policies.
Is Commissioner Griscom, are there any questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on commission policies under 2000, fiscal management, 4000, instructional support, 5000, personnel, and 6000, students on final reading. Do we have a motion to approve?
This is Commissioner Tisnet, so moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Levine, second.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Terrence Patterson. I do want to make just one comment.
Yes, Commissioner.
I just want to assure the listening public and then also my fellow commissioners that there was an extensive amount of discussion and research and review of a lot of different policies. And I know when our general counsel was going through these, it may have seemed somewhat abrupt, but I just wanted to assure, again, you guys that we did review these policies. We've made tweaks to make the numbering a bit more efficient, the headings a bit more representative of the topics, and then also the content as we continue to look to be a best-in-class statewide authorizer. So I just wanted to make that comment prior to us making the final vote for the review of these policies. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's Tom Griscom. Thank you, Commissioner. If anybody looks at the material sent out, they will see the large number of items that your committee reviewed. So I thank you for making that comment because, yes, it is an extensive list. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Chase, would you call the roll, please?
Chase Engel. Commissioner Hanson.
Votes aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levine. Commissioner Patterson.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Richards.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Sisnet.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Tucker.
Aye.
Votes aye. Chairman Griscom.
Aye.
Votes aye. Mr. Chairman, the LEA policies are approved on final reading.
Mr. Chairman, this is Al. I did it again. I was muted, so I voted yes. I apologize.
Duly noted.
Sure. So our next item of business, Tom Griscom, is the Business Operations Committee report. And I'd like to recognize Commissioner Hanson on this item. Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Business Operations Committee's recent work has been on the fiscal year 2021 budget to actuals, preparing for the fiscal year 22 budget, approving the procurement procedures, and discussing the Commission's future office space. I'd like to recognize Melanie Harrell to provide these updates to the full Commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. This is Melanie Harrell. We covered quite a bit of ground in the committee meeting yesterday. We first discussed the latest budget to actuals and forecasted expenditures. Overall for this year, we continue to be operating well under budget. The ongoing pandemic, switching to virtual meetings have all resulted in additional savings, particularly in travel and things of that nature. We did update the committee about some just slight modifications to projections around personnel, contracted services. And then as well, I did note that we have not yet been billed for our facilities rent. So this doesn't impact our projections or our budget in any way. I did just want to make everyone aware that we will see probably a large expense hit all at once that will represent kind of a backlog of those expenses. We are keeping an eye on that with accounting, and we'll be keeping tabs to make sure that is all coded appropriately. Again, otherwise, the budget to actuals, the projections haven't changed in any significant ways, so we don't see any major flags or concerns. We then turn to some updated projections for fiscal year 2022. As you all know, we will be bringing a formal revised budget for consideration at our July meetings after the conclusion of legislative session. We will have a much firmer idea of all of these things at that time. But beginning in March, we do start receiving updated enrollment projections for all of our authorized charter schools as we engaged in the LEA planning and the consolidated funding application process. So we did want to provide an update just on where we stand on those projections for next year at this moment. Again, with the caveat that these things are changing kind of day by day, and we will be updating these monthly on an ongoing basis before that July meeting. So the first thing just to note that we discussed was that the authorizer fee is obviously the most variable part of our revenue and is directly impacted by any changes in student enrollment. So with these enrollment projections rolling in, we updated those projections accordingly. And what we did see is that right now we are predicting about a 7 to 8% decrease in our authorizer fee revenue, potentially just due to some enrollment variance in the originally approved budget. So again, these are conservative estimates and very preliminary, but we did discuss that overall we are planning and thinking strategically about operating on a very lean year next year, and making sure that we are being strategic about how we are allocating our costs and planning accordingly. So again, we are closely monitoring these projections over time, keeping these things in mind as we move forward, especially through the procurement and contracting processes. And at our July meeting, we will be bringing a much more formal revised budget for your consideration. And at that time, we're also planning to present some contingency budgets so that we can respond to any ongoing changes in real time and make you aware of all our thoughts on those matters.
This is Tom Griscom. Thank you, Melanie, for that overview. Let me turn to members of the Business Operations Committee if they have any additional comments they would like to make at this point. Seeing none, this is
Commissioner Hanson.
Yes, Commissioner.
I just wanted to make the quick comment to say thanks, Melanie, for all the hard work and awesome news that we're coming in under budget. So that's all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do also just want to mention, this is Melanie Harrell again, that we also discussed our long-term space planning and just some slight changes there. The Business Operations Committee reviewed and approved a facilities proposal for commission's offices. The prompting of this was really that the state is taking steps to consolidate office space in downtown Nashville. And so in a little over a year, the plan is that we will be moving from the 5th floor of Davy Crockett to the 8th floor. You have a diagram of the space. We're excited about it. I know Chairman Griscom and Tess have been able to walk through and see the space, and we think it'll be plenty of room for us to grow into, and we'll have a dedicated conference room that will be helpful for future meetings. The committee also discussed and approved procurement procedures, which we are required to have statutorily. And those include that the commission will follow CPO guidelines in awarding contracts in excess of $25,000, but it does also allow for some emergency approvals should we find ourselves in an extremely time-sensitive situation where the executive director could enter into a contract with the approval of the chairman and the chair of the Business Operations Committee, and then it would be presented to the full commission for an approval vote at the next meeting, again, only in kind of exigent circumstances.
This is Tom Griscom. Thank you, Melanie, for those additional comments. Anything else on the Business Operations Report? All right, let's now move to the report from the School Performance and Accountability Committee. And let me call on Commissioner Richard for this item.
Thank you, Chairman. The report from the School Performance and Accountability Committee will provide a school operations update for the 4 schools that will be open and operational in SY school year 21 and 22. We'll discuss new start appeals preparations and provide an overview setup of the work currently taking place to be prepared for school year 21-22. This is an educational and informational part of the meeting. We went through this in depth during the committee meeting yesterday afternoon, and I want to thank the director and the staff for their help. We had a lively discussion on a lot of these items. Please feel free to jump in with questions and comments as we go through this, because as you all realize, before the next time we meet, we will be an operating LEA, and these materials outline how we're going to go through that process. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Stovall.
Thank you. This is Tess Stovall. And again, as Commissioner Richards said, we had a very lively conversation yesterday. We went into a lot of depth and detail. So I'm going to provide you all key highlights in the PowerPoint presentation that I went through yesterday is available and was presented to you all. I'm happy to pull that up if we have specific questions, but I do want to take the time just to give you all key notes from our conversation yesterday. Important to note that we will have 4 schools in operation in school year 21-22. That is a change from some of the earlier conversations we have had because we do have a school, Cornerstone Prep, which has opted to delay its start until the 22-23 school year. This is allowed in statute. It is fairly common when we're seeing new schools opening, and so that does impact both our authorizer fee as well as how we are planning our work. So the 4 schools that we will have in operation will be Bluff City High School. This is a fully built out high school located in Memphis. We have Kip Antioch College Prep, elementary and middle, that will be serving grades K through 3 and grades 5 through 7. And then we also have a new school opening, that's Nashville Collegiate Prep. This is a school that's operating in South Nashville. I will say that the one of the conversations that we had yesterday was that their conservative enrollment projections right now are coming in lower than what they were approved in their initial charter application. They have just identified and are sharing widely their facility, and so I think what we are keeping a close eye on is if they their enrollment is trending upward now that they do have a facility. But we are keeping in close contact with them around any potential changes that might have to occur as it relates to their academic, operational, or financial planning. We are planning to have a sit-down meeting with their operations group in May. Once we get a better sense of enrollment, once they've had an opportunity to continue their enrollment process with a facility, to see where they are and if any adjustments need to be made. We also had a good conversation about the focuses of the schools over the next school year. Obviously, their main focus is to accelerate that academic learning, particularly now that students are moving back in person, and hopefully we'll have a more full and in-person school year in 21-22. And so that has really been, the conversations that the State Board of Education has been having at their site visits, and that we're really focusing those conversations on are how do you continue to accelerate that student learning given the pandemic and what have been extremely challenging conditions over the last school year. In the slide deck, we did provide what the ESSER allocations have been to the schools, the state board district, and then now moving into the charter commission school district. We also noted that if you can, particularly the ESSER 3.0 allocation for the schools is approximately $3.8 million, and that is a significant amount of federal funding and probably more than schools are used to having. And so we had a good conversation about how we as a school district can be supporting our schools in both budgeting and expenditures and reporting to ensure that those federal funds are used appropriately and to the best needs of students. Particularly because there is a lot of flexibility around the ESSER dollars as it relates to facilities needs. So we are seeing some schools that are doing improvements to their facilities with these federal funds. So that is the top line of kind of the overview of the operations of our schools next school year. Again, we will provide a more fuller update in July about what our enrollment projections are looking like based on the next couple of months. The other thing that we discussed at our committee meeting and that we will have a much more in-depth conversation around in July is the New Start appeals that is likely to be coming to the commission in August. So as I had briefed the commission in February, there are 7 charter applications that have been submitted statewide across 5 districts, And so we are closely monitoring the progress of those charter applications to see how local districts decide on those applications so that we are in full preparation for receipt of any New Start appeals. The earliest the commission would receive a New Start appeal would be early August. So we will be carving out time at our July meeting to do a full in-depth training with the commission about how you should approach a record, what are the key look-fors, what is the statutory charge of the commission so that you all are prepared to receive and review those first New Start appeals this August. If there are any questions, we'd be happy to take them at this point, or if any members of the committee have additional comments based on our conversation yesterday.
Okay, seeing none, thank you so much, Director Stovall. To
Actually,
finish
I'm sorry, I had my hand up.
okay,
not
I'm
used to
sorry.
being-
Your picture comes and goes.
This is Wendy Tucker. I'm not used to quietly asking. I'll just have to barge. Sorry. I have just one question. Tess, when you were referring to the ESSER dollars, is that the American Rescue Plan dollars or was that the CARES Act dollars?
Well, so there have been 3 allocations. So
Right.
how about this? They are designated as ESSER 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0.
This is the 3.0?
Yes, this is the 3.0
Okay.
is the 3.8 million. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And my understanding is there are a couple streams. Some of it's at the state level. The vast majority is going to the district level, right? And that's and then you have a little bit of IDEA specific dollars that really isn't much once you. So I'm guessing that you as the district are creating some sort of plan on how you're going to allocate those dollars to the schools. Are we going to hear? I don't want to get in the weeds on it. I'm just curious, because it's unusual for the districts to get that giant bucket of money, how we're approaching that as a district.
Yes, Tess Stovall. And I will say we did get into this conversation yesterday in terms of the ESSER 1.0 and ESSER 2.0 were allocated by the Department of Education to the state board district, because those funds schools could start spending those funds prior to the commission taking over as the district. So they have, those funds are allocated to districts based on the Title I proportionate share. So for the State Board of Education, the funds were distributed to schools based on basically the proportionate share of Title I, the number of students that would have qualify in terms of direct certification and other categories. The ESSER 3.0, because those funds cannot be expended until beginning FY22, that allocation has actually been provided to the Charter Commission. So we, switch one hat, moving to this hat, we will actually be working with our schools to first provide them their allocation, provide them the budget template. They will then be returning to us what that budget will be. So we as a Charter Commission will be submitting that budget to the Department of Education, and we'll be working through with them as well. And we have been in close contact with both the Department of Education and the State Board of Education on managing the transfer of these funds, particularly because these funds can be spent over multiple fiscal years. So it's there's very likely to be remaining funds in the ESSER 1.0 and 2.0 that will transition with the schools beginning July 1. To a certain extent, it's the same pot, it's just going to be a different name. So we have been in close communication with the department and the State Board of Education to really manage that transition, to make sure that those funds are being budgeted and expended appropriately.
Great. This is Wendy Tucker again. And my understanding of the 3.0, I'm going to use your terminology, is that actually doesn't have to be obligated. It can be obligated through September 2024, because they put an amendment on. And okay, I'm just that amount of money, I think, is something that districts are just not even sure. I mean, there's plenty of need, but so I just want to make sure we're doing whatever we can do to help guide schools to use that money in the best way possible, just because the amounts are pretty high.
This is Tess Stovall. I apologize for the fire engine on James Robertson. Yes, absolutely, Commissioner Tucker. This is a part of those conversations that we are having. And also, I think the strategies around ensuring that they are submitting timely reimbursements, that we are working through the distribution of those funds in a timely and thoughtful manner is an importance to the staff, and also a topic of conversation for the committee yesterday as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Richards, this is Commissioner Griscom. Let me add one other point, Wendy. During this conversation as a committee, we talked about our team, our staff being in a position to help direct, provide guidance, information, things like that are necessary. So to your point about being able, it is a large amount of money, But for us to be in a position where we're able to provide that kind of support to some of these schools that probably, to your point, really have never seen these kind of funds coming in. So that's part of what Tess shared with us yesterday, would be part of what's in place going forward.
This is Wendy Tucker. Great. That sounds wonderful. And there are tons of resources being developed that I'm sure the staff will have access to, and I'm happy to share some that are coming to me that I think are valuable for schools.
Okay, this is Commissioner Richards. Are there other comments or questions? If not, I will move on and recognize Melanie Harrell to discuss our LEA setup preparations in detail. The materials were in both the committee and the commission materials. There is a detailed transition plan in those materials, and Ms. Harrell's going to walk us through that and take any questions or comments.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Richards. This is Melanie Harrell. As Commissioner Richards mentioned, we did have a very in-depth conversation yesterday. Similar to Tess, I am going to kind of talk through the high-level overview of each of the segments that we discussed, some of our the specific areas that we discussed to take note of moving forward, and then would of course welcome any additional questions from the rest of the commission that you may have about this. So first, we provided an overview to the committee of the LEA operating functions that we have and the work that we've done to prepare for the successful handoff of these responsibilities from the state board to the commission as of July 1. So as a high level kind of bird's eye view, our primary responsibilities fall into some big buckets of general operations, finance, federal programs, special populations, some human resources that we are required to oversee as a district for our schools, data management and test administration. So we discussed the delineation of those work streams across the 3 staff members that are primarily responsible for that, which are myself, our new coordinator of federal programs and special populations, Kelly Croneman, who I believe Tess will be formally introducing you to in a little bit. And then our coordinator of data and operations, who we are hoping to be in a position to make an offer within the next 10 to 14 days. So we're very excited about the build out of the team and having, starting to really dig in on these work streams across more people than just me and Tess, and of course the rest of the staff. So we also updated the committee on some of the key activities that we've completed in these broader buckets, which are outlined, as Commissioner Richards mentioned, in depth in the slide deck that was provided to you. So we are focused really on working closely with external partners, the state board, vendors, and the variety of state agencies that we interact with as a commission to make sure that this handoff is really successful. So we have a project plan that we are working off of. We have regular cadence of communication with the Department of Education, Central Procurement Office, the SIS vendors, vendors that provide supports for special populations, and we are keeping in very close contact with our external partners. We've also gone on a bit of a road show just to make sure that everybody that we could touch with our work knows that the commission is coming, is prepared, understands that this handoff is happening, and that we understand the implications that that may have for their work to make sure that we have a shared understanding of what's going to be happening moving forward. So finally, and I think where we really dug in the deepest was the timeline for our ongoing work, which we outlined the next 6 months in 2 quarterly chunks. So the next 3 months before July 1, we will really be focusing on activities that ensure that we have all the pieces in place for that formal July 1 handoff. And after July 1, we start to move more into what will become kind of our regular operating procedures. So we are starting to do the things that you should see happen pretty regularly throughout the year and then on an annual basis moving forward. So in the committee discussion of kind of immediate next steps and activities, we talked through some additional items of note to really think about and prioritize this list, in this list. So first, we talked about the importance of the different data system integrations that we're going to have. I know I shared that, we're just trying to make sure that everybody who needs to push a button or have some piece in transferring the different information systems across platforms knows what to do, knows timelines, and we know who to contact and keep up to date on different things. With that, Commissioner Richards highlighted the importance of making sure that we have reliable data and infrastructure security. So that's something that we'll be talking through internally as a team and can provide some additional context on in the future, as well as it's something that I've noted to flag in our next set of meetings with the district technology team at TDOE and with each of these vendors that could be providing some kind of related services there. Additionally, and I know there were a lot of questions about this, and Tess did a great job of discussing this. We also did talk about the management and oversight of ESSER 3.0 funds and kind of how that will integrate with our broader federal funding procedures. And so that is something that we will also be integrating, particularly as we receive more guidance from the department or other resources that we will want to keep in mind as we are kind of codifying those procedures and processes. So I think with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners may have about this information. I know there's a lot in the slide deck, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now, or of course we can have, emails or ongoing conversations if necessary.
Are there any comments or questions? I would add that at the request of the chair, the team is going to do a deep dive on the reporting requirements with respect to the spending of the ESSER 3.0 money. This is kind of a work in progress. I think guidance is still being issued and nobody's absolutely certain what the final requirements will be, but it's obviously critically important that we meet those requirements when the money is available, and the team is paying close attention to that, along with all the other details that are a part of this transition. I do want to thank Tess, Melanie, the entire staff who've been working on this. This is really hard to do and have it work perfectly, and that's what they're trying to do. So we look forward to it. I know all of us who are concerned about how we will start up on July 1 are looking forward to our July meeting for an update. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back to you.
This is Tom Griscom. Thank you, Commissioner Richards. Are there any other comments about this committee report? Well, we're going to move to the next section, which is an update on the legislative action going on in Nashville. My understanding is, maybe Chase, and you can correct me when you come up, that they're looking at adjournment sometime in early May. Usually takes a week longer. I look at Commissioner Smith, who's been through that. Let me also just call out Chase, because he successfully helped us navigate the sunset, or as Chairman Reagan called it, the sunrise hearing. So we now have jumped that hurdle, which was great to have achieved that, and but appreciate all the work to date. I think it's very clear the experience that Chase has brought to the Charter Commission from his work on the Hill is already paying benefits. So with that, I think as there's nothing else I want to say to puff you up, my friend, but now you can share with us what we're doing and how we're doing, please.
This is Chase Engle. Chairman, I appreciate the kind words. Can you all see that pretty well, that PowerPoint? Awesome. Before I get into this, to Commissioner Patterson's point earlier on, all of the individual policies that Rules, Policy, and Governance have voted on, and this full commission has voted on, if you click on those individual policies on our website, you can see them. You can see the full documents just for the public out there. But again, my name's Chase Engle, and the legislature's in full swing right now. This is my busiest time of year. So I want to start off talking about our sunset bill. As Chairman Griscom and Tess were up there in November, it's sometimes you just got to work this process a little bit. So we passed it 32-0 in the Senate, 65-19 in the House. And basically what this bill does is it keeps us alive as a state entity until 2023. Usually with brand new state agencies, they'll start off the sunset cycle for 2 years. So this is a very normal time frame. But, you know, to that point, I do want to say a big thank you to Chairman Roberts and Chairman Reagan and the government operations committees for carrying this legislation for us. Does anyone have any questions on the sunset bill before we move on? Okay. So the biggest thing that we've worked on so far this year is Senate Bill 737, House Bill 74, which is the ASD exit plan legislation. And most importantly for the commissioners here is this will allow some high-performing charter schools from the ASD to be able to directly apply to us if they are, if that is approved by the Commissioner of the Department of Education. Now, obviously, this is an expansion of the original mission of the commission as an appellate body. So for us, you know, during this process and working with the sponsors, our biggest concern, and they've all been addressed to this point, is to maintain the independence of the Charter School Commission. And, you know, I think the way that the bill is written now, I do believe that we have ensured that as well. So as it's currently drafted and as it's going through the committees, the bill will give us the ability to create an application for those ASD schools that will be applying to the commission. We'll be able to designate an application window. You know, we'll be able to tell them when they can apply to us and what that time frame looks like. Also, and I think very importantly as well in this legislation is we'll have the ability to renegotiate some of these charter agreements, because the framework that the ASD charter agreements have been in and our framework are a lot different. And so, you know, we thought having the ability to rework those contracts and those charter agreements was very critical in this for this. You know, if the bill does end up being passed, you know, we've already started internally discussing, you know, organizationally, what does this look like for us? What will our staffing needs be? What is the timeline going to be as well? So, you know, we've been very thoughtful in this process, and the sponsors of the legislation, Speaker Hale and Chairman White, they've worked with us as well as the department to fine tune some of these aspects that I went over to just, you know, to ensure our independence and ensure that we have the ability to do the job correctly. So that's been the biggest piece that I've been working on this year. Do any of the commissioners have any questions before we move on to the next one?
This is Commissioner Richards. I saw a very early version of the bill, and if you have a current version, I think it would be helpful if it could be circulated to the full commission.
Yes, ma'am. I will. As soon as we finish things up today, I'd be happy to get that out to the commission members.
That would be great. One of my concerns, along with maintaining the independence of the commission, is this whole issue of should the, you know, where is the line drawn between the commission, the ASD schools that have not performed? This allows for an exit, but I'm not really certain that it really gets to the heart of the problem of non-performing ASD schools. So I want to see what's in it, and I hope as it moves forward, we can make sure it's clear, because a lot of these schools, at least in Shelby County, have a decades-long record of not providing quality education to their students. And whatever happens, we need to see if we can rectify that situation. Thank you.
Commissioner Richards, absolutely. And, you know, I really dove deep into the pathway that, you know, involves the commission. There are 2 other pathways available to these schools, and I'll send you that, how the language looks right now. And if you have any questions, we can get into that as well. But so moving on from the ASD legislation, another big piece that I'm sure you may have read about online or something is there was a bill that would allow for-profit charter operators in the state of Tennessee. Currently the state only allows nonprofit charter management organizations to run a school in this state. This legislation would have changed that. The Senate did approve it in the Education Committee. However, in the House, it did not have a similar fate. They took it off notice in a House subcommittee in March. So it will not be coming back this year, but it's still alive in the legislative hopper, if you will, to possibly make a return next year. So beyond that for-profit bill, the other thing that, again, I think is important for you all to know is there is a cleanup bill out there. It's Senate Bill 623, House Bill 580, carried by Chairman Bell and Chairman Reagan. In this bill, what we needed was to clean up that the commission would be able to hear amendments to charter agreements on appeal. So whenever they ran the bill back in 19, this was just a legislative oversight that that we had noticed, and now with this bill, it's passed the Senate and it's working through the House. But this legislation will correct that issue, and that'll send any amendment appeals that will be coming to us as opposed to the State Board of Education. Does that anyone have any questions on that front? All right. So, as as Chairman Griscom alluded to, this is hyperspeed time at the legislature. March and April, we are moving 1,000 miles an hour. So, this past Wednesday, the Senate Education Committee, they closed at 8:30 on Wednesday evening. And next week, the House Administration and Instruction full committees, I anticipate they will be closing up. They have about 10 bills per calendar on those. So again, as Tom said, we kind of anticipate that the first week of May is when we're going to shut this thing down for the year. But also next Tuesday, the Commissioner of F&A, Butch Ely, he'll be presenting the Senate Finance Ways and Means, what's known as the administration amendment to the budget. And, the best way to describe this is to serve sort of as a starting point for the state spending plan, as the legislators, or as legislators, they're turning to this. This is going to be their biggest focus moving forward. And, I know that was quite a bit of information, but if anyone does have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Chase, this is Tom Griscom. Let me make 2 points and ask you to respond. We did get a fiscal note on the ASD bill so that we could look at the potential impact on the Charter Commission if in fact this legislation goes through and we now are moving in a different role. Also, so commissioners know, there have been ongoing communications with Chase and Tess with the administration on this legislation. So we knew directly from them what their position was, the interest they had, and so we could also share back with them, points that a view that we have as the Charter Commission. So I just want to put that in the record, Chase. If there's anything you'd like to add to that, please do.
Yeah, I mean, what we initially got and where the bill's at now is there's a lot of changes especially when it comes to keeping us independent as a commission. And Commissioner Richards, I will share that with you today. But I think that we've got the bill in a really good place for the commission. That's been the sole focus of my work. Really, this legislative session is working on that bill. So I'd love to circulate that out to the commissioners, and any feedback I'd love to get on it.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Richards. I appreciate Chase's hard work. He's been very responsive to my questions, and I think the concerns raised by the chairman and other commissioners as we've looked at this process. It's always hard when something have to figure out how to end something. I don't care what part of the state government it is. It's always kind of a challenge, and this was challenging at the worst and at the best. So thank you very much for your help.
Yeah, and before I sign off here, once the legislature shuts it down for the year, I do plan on making a little road show going from Johnson City to Memphis. Just have lunch with you guys and talk to you. So be on the lookout for that email from me, and trying to set something up. All right. Good deal.
This is Commissioner Tucker. I just wanted to I have one comment and one quick question. Chase, I've spent some time up there, so I know, although you just showed us 3 bills and one that you spent a lot of time on, I know for every one of those you've at least had your fingers in 100 other ones, and I know how crazy busy you are right now. So thank you. One question or request I would have: there are a lot of bills that are not charter related, but are curriculum related and are concerning to a lot of people. And I would just be curious, when session is over, if there would be, and I don't want to get into the politics of them, but I do think it would be important for us to know if any of those bills restrict what our schools are able to do as far as curriculum choices and everything else. I know charters have a lot of flexibility on some of that. So I'd be curious at the end of this, which of those bills actually are dictating what our charter schools do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I completely understand. And for these so far, I have tried to just give you guys like the big what's going on. But whenever we come back for in July, maybe in a committee or in the full commission, I'd be happy to lay out what some of those changes look like, especially with curriculum, and present it to you all. I'd be happy to do that.
And this is Wendy Tucker. And again, I'm not saying I wanted that before now anyway, because a lot of those are in all different places. I just think it would be important for us to know for our schools. And if there are curriculum issues that charter schools have the ability to be flexible around, I don't know that we need to know about those for purposes of the commission.
This Chase Engle, absolutely, Commissioner Tucker. I completely understand. We'll get something together.
This is Tom Griscom. One last point for commissioners. When Tess and I went through the sunset hearings, Chairman Reagan of Oak Ridge asked me about the vacancy on the commission and when was it going to be filled. At the successful hearing that we've just reported on, the last point that Representative Reagan made to me was, and I knew it was coming, he reminded me, he'd asked me the question at the first time we were there, and he was waiting for the answer, and I politely responded, we've always checked back with the administration before we went in these hearings. And Representative Reagan said, well, I want you to send me some notification by the end of March. So I wanted the commissioners to know, Chase hand carried a note from me to Commissioner Reagan saying that the governor in the near future does plan to make the 9th appointment to this commission. And from Chase's report back to me, that satisfied Representative Reagan with the answer. But also, I think I just want you all to know that we're expecting a new commissioner sometime in the very near future, that the administration is preparing and going to be doing that. So I wanted to report that back out to all of you all. That's another side piece that was going on as we went through the sunset hearing.
And Tom, if I can just jump in, just be glad he didn't ask you about the standard deviation of how long it had been before the 9th commissioner had been on appointed, because that's his favorite line, is to ask standard deviation questions. Tess is laughing because she knows it's true.
This is Tom Griscom. Thank you, Commissioner Smith. I am very happy that the 3-line note was satisfactory to the chairman.
Well, what is the standard deviation of the position of the?
You don't want to get into it with him. He's a statistics guy, and he will tear it apart frontwards, backwards, and sideways.
And you'll probably get 2 or 3 follow-ups to go a little deeper detail, Alan, after you get the first one.
Tell you what, Alan, I'll have him call you. I'll just send your number to him and say, hey, just call Alan. He'll give you the standard deviation.
We're good.
All right. right, I just want to put that, I wanted to alert and share with commissioners where we are on the 9th commissioner. With that, Tess, let me turn to you for your update. I think you are going to share with us a new face that's on our call this morning. So thank you very much.
Yes, Tess Stovall. My first operational update is something that I have shared with you all via email, but we do have a new staff member who's going to be coming on board, and she is on our call today. Kelly Croneman is here. I'm so excited that Kelly is going to be transitioning from the State Board of Education to the Charter Commission. She has been working directly with our schools over the last 2 years on LEA functions for the state board. So I can tell you, not only are we from a expertise perspective excited, but we have heard such positive feedback from our charter schools who are just really excited that they get to continue to work with Kelly and continue to really build out the work that she has already been doing over the last 2 years. So Kelly will be officially transitioning from the State Board of Education probably in June. We're trying to be really thoughtful about her, continuing the work that needs to be done to wrap up the school year and kind of transition the functions. But you will be seeing her in future conversations, and we look forward to having her officially on board with us probably in June. As Melanie shared, we are close and hope to be making a decision on the coordinator of data and operations here in the next 2 weeks. We will share that information as soon as we have it, and would love for that staff member to be coming on board at a similar timeline, so no later than June. That will conclude our hiring for FY21. And once we have more information about what the FY22 budget looks like in our conversation in July, we will be looking to fill out the team based on the current approved positions. But we do have to wait for additional hiring until we get additional information about what that budget looks like. Additionally, as we've mentioned throughout this call, we have been working very closely with Nashville Collegiate Prep on their pre-opening process. This includes monthly conversations with their team, documentation reviews, so that we are really keeping up to speed on how they are progressing on their pre-opening work. I have shared with the full commission 2 groundbreaking ceremonies, one for Nashville Collegiate Prep and one for a Rocket Ship Nashville #3 coming up over the next several weeks. Staff will be participating in those ceremonies. We would welcome commissioner attendance as well. Really great opportunity for you all to kind of get to see on the ground work happening at our schools and seeing kind of the facilities in process. And one thing in the hopes that we are all together in person in July, I know Chairman Griscom and I have already talked about potentially carving out some time in our in-person meetings where we can do some school visits and we can meet some of the people that we do work with. And so I think an opportunity might be, hopefully if we're in person in July, for you all to kind of get a quick tour of some of the schools that we have operating in Nashville, understanding the likelihood that we won't have students in the buildings yet, but at least you'll get to put some faces with some names around the work that we're doing. As we've discussed, we are keeping very close eye on the FY22 budget, both in terms of authorizer fee as well as the work of the General Assembly. We were pleased that the improvements that we requested were included in the governor's budget. We will be keeping a close eye on any additional improvements that we see, particularly as it relates to the ASD exit bill, and if that passes and if we get additional resources to do that work. So again, we'll have a much fuller conversation about what the FY22 and FY23 budgets are looking like in July. We spent a lot of time working on the LEA setup, as Melanie shared, and I want to assure everyone, Commissioner Richards mentioned that she wasn't sleeping well at night about the LEA setup, and trust us, we are all not sleeping well, so I promise all of these, the I's are going to be crossed, T's are going to be crossed, but this really is, we want to, all of the focus for us is to ensure a smooth transition for our operating charter schools. So we have really been very intentional to make sure that we are thinking ahead, we are touching base with everyone that we need to, so that their operations continue to be smooth, and let the district operations we'll work it out with the department and the State Board of Education. As Chairman Griscom mentioned, we are hopeful that the 9th commission member will be appointed by the governor here in the coming weeks. We have already prepared an onboarding process for that commissioner whenever they come on board. So looking forward to having that additional person on our board and be able to introduce them hopefully sooner rather than later. And I did want to just take a moment and kind of walk you all through how I'm thinking about the remainder of 2021, particularly as it relates to the commission developing its mission and vision, starting to think about a strategic plan. Obviously, there are a lot of moving parts going on right now as it relates to both legislative session, transitioning the work from the State Board of Education, preparing to be an authorizer, that we thought it was important and had spoken with other members of the commission for us to really get through legislative session, get through the summer and the transition, and then for us to really have opportunity to step back and take a look at our strategic plan and to start really thinking and being thoughtful around that strategic plan process. So the first thing that you all can expect to see as it relates to the greater strategic planning process is that between now and July, we're going to be taking the opportunity to gather some initial feedback from you all on a proposed mission and vision, so that when we come to the July meeting, we will have something more formal for you all to react to. I certainly think none of us want to sit on a call and try to wordsmith, as a part of a full meeting. So we're going to take that opportunity to get that initial feedback between now and July. And so that based on that feedback, we will be able to propose something for mission and vision for you all to react to, make some final tweaks, and hopefully approve in short order. And then after that point, we will then be moving into our strategic planning process with the goal that the second half of 2021, that we will be able to start getting stakeholder feedback, both our schools, the greater community, other agencies that we work with, you all, so that we will hopefully be at a place where toward the end of 2021, that we will be able to really hammer out what that strategic plan and those benchmarks and goals really look like. A part of that process and a part of the data that we will collect, as was mentioned earlier in this meeting, is conducting a board self-evaluation. That is something that the Rules, Policy, and Governance Committee talked about yesterday, and we'll have a more in-depth conversation about in July. But really wanting to be thoughtful about what are those questions that you all are kind of assessing yourself on, and how do we then collect that data and use that to feed into our greater strategic planning work. I did want to mention that we are lucky that Commissioner Sisnet has agreed to be the staff and commission liaison to the strategic planning work. We are grateful that he is willing to work closely with the staff as we get the work going over the next couple of months, and really being kind of the primary point person for us on the commission, kind of providing us initial feedback on things, providing us guiding principles as we are moving forward. Certainly the full commission will have opportunities to weigh in on that strategic plan as we build it out. But we did think it was important to have one commission member who's really that primary point person and having much more ongoing conversations about the strategic plan. So really just am thankful that Commissioner Sisnet is willing to be that person, and we just really look forward to continuing the work with him. And I've also laid out in my written report kind of a lot of the things we've talked about over the next several months and kind of how we are project planning, really looking forward to officially being an authorizer, really getting those schools under our belt. So a lot of our work is obviously geared towards that. Depending on the outcomes of the General Assembly, Ashley and I will be starting on some rulemaking work. So I think that's a preview for you all into upcoming meetings, is that we may have more rules that we are drafting and reviewing and promulgating based on additional responsibilities that may be coming our way. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions or any additional comments from the commissioners.
This is Tom Griscom, Tess. Thank you for the report. Kelly, thank you for agreeing to be part of our team. Looking forward to having you and the experience you bring. Commissioner Sisnet, I want to thank you for being willing to be that liaison strategic plan, because as Tess mentioned, we need to have that touch point So you can share back with us if there's guidance or direction you're looking for as this is playing out. But I want to thank you and tell all the commissioners how much I appreciate your willingness to step in and do this. I think it's very important. As Tess mentioned, we're looking to be meeting in person in July. We'll still be very smart about it. As we open this meeting, I heard a lot of people talk about having their COVID shots or being vaccinated. I'm there, done it, and it's up individual to make that decision. But I think as we look to July, we should be hopefully further down this path. I will look to my friend Alan, who deals with this every day from his job, but as to telling us whether he thinks from the health standpoint, are we in good shape to go? I would anticipate that's the case, but plan that we will be looking to be together. It'd be the first time we've done it, Tess, in what, a little over a year, correct? So something to look forward to. Let me stop here and ask commissioners if they have any questions, comments that they'd like to make.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Alan. No, please go ahead.
David, you go first.
Commissioner Hanson.
All right. So Dave Hanson speaking. I'll do the unimportant comments and then I'll let Commissioner Levine go. So I was just going to say three things. One, I noticed Tess said crossing T's, so I feel like Tess needs a vacation. She's crossing T's instead of crossing I's is what she said instead of crossing T's. I also noticed that we're going to have board member evaluations for both Commissioner Hanson and Commissioner Levine. I want to apologize for all of our phone issues. I promise we are here. You can't ever hear us when we're saying I. And then I also want to just say thanks to Tess, Ashley, Melanie, and the whole team for kind of operating in a strange period of uncertainty. I know, like, just from our budget standpoint, it could be this, it could be that. We've got student numbers and budget numbers all over the place. So I think just thanking the team for operating in extraordinary uncertainty. So now I'll let Alan get to the important things he was actually going to.
Actually, you know what, Mr. Chair, I think it needs to be said, you referenced this in your comments earlier about how extensive the evaluation process is and forcing us to sort of go through the granular aspects of getting things going. I don't think any of us individually can possibly imagine how much work it took for Tess to do everything that's been done, and her staff to do everything that's been done in the last year or since she's been employed to get things teed up the way they are. And I just think it needs to be said, we are very fortunate to have Tess leading us. And just, I think, Tess, I can tell you, we appreciate it. I appreciate your professionalism, the dotting of the T's and the crossing of the I's, and as Commissioner Hanson mentioned, and all the things you've done at the detail level to tee us up to be successful and to make these meetings as efficient as they are. So I just wanted to say that, and I think you can't say it enough.
This is Tom Griscom. Commissioner Levine, thank you. Let me just add to that, because as I went through the evaluation with Tess, it was important to look at and remember how long she's been in this role. And then look at the team that's been put together as we went through the fall, and to see, to your point, where we are right now. I have the opportunity, being the chair, to probably have a little more interface than a lot of you all do, but I will tell you that the ease of working with this team, the ability to get information, the outreach, soliciting advice and opinions, but just the focus on getting this job done. So I'm like Commissioner Richards. I don't want to stay up every night, but yeah, we all think about this. We know what's coming. But I feel extremely confident that the team that's together and that's continuing to build out helps us have better nights, Commissioner Richards, than bad nights. But Commissioner Levine, thank you for your points. Well taken and well said, and we'll help Tess understand what gets crossed and what gets dotted. Any other comments? for the commissioners? Seeing none, so we're at the magic point, Chase, where our next meeting, this is Tom Griscom, is going to be on the 13th of July, 2021. As I said, hopefully we're together, which means that our committee meetings that happen the day before, some time for us as commissioners to be together, and maybe the ability to go and see a school. We would do that on the day before the meeting, but be able to meet once again together in person. Let me see if there's anything else here. Yes.
This is Alan.
Yes.
One thing I don't know what everybody's vacation schedule looks like this summer, but we locked in a vacation that I don't return until the 13th. So it's very possible I will either be absent or have to call in to the meeting if that's acceptable to you.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. That is acceptable. Yes, thank you. Any other comments?
I refuse to plan a vacation this year because when I did last year, it started a global pandemic. So I am not scheduling any vacations.
Well, Commissioner Smith, let me thank you for doing that, for speaking for the collective group here. We don't want to spend the second year like we spent this past year. So thank you for that acknowledgement. Anybody else? Seeing none, let me entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Commissioner
Patterson. Make that motion.
A second.
Terrence, I'll second Terrence. I made it last time. I'll second Terrence.
Commissioner Patterson made the motion. Commissioner Smith made the second. Alan, one last thing to you. Since you commented on my background last time, I wanted you to note I changed it this time.
I see. Mickey Mouse. I love it.
Well, and that's where I scheduled the vacation last year that caused the pandemic, which is why I made that comment. I just wasn't going to specifically call it out.
Well, and since yesterday, our chair of our rules committee, or policy committee, whatever the committee's called, I made note, Mr. Chair, that unlike your previous meetings, our meeting ended an hour early yesterday, but I take it back. I take it back. Here we sit. Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none. Chase, let me ask you to call the roll one last time for us.
This is Chase Engel. Commissioner Hanson?
Votes aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levine?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Patterson?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Richards?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Sisnet?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
Votes aye. Chairman Griscom?
Aye.
Votes aye. Mr. Chairman, the motion is approved.
Thank you all. Hope to see you in person in a couple months. Have a good weekend.